Magnus the fucking Red, though. Ah, brilliant! I mean, in my last video, I talked about the rumor of there being demon Primarchs in 40k, but at that point, they were just rumors. Not anymore. Not anymore. Not only are the demon Primarchs coming, which is exciting in and of itself, but the other Primarchs are coming too. At least those that are still alive. My sincere hope, I sincerely hope that they don't sort of resurrect the dead ones. I don't want that personally. The dead ones died for a purpose, for a meaning. You know, Ferrus Manus's death at the hands of the demon-possessed Fulgrim is very significant for both Fulgrim and for the Iron Hands. You know, without, in the HH books, in the Horus Heresy books, what's established is the death of Ferrus Manus destroyed a significant part of the Legion's soul. Ferrus Manus wasn't like the Iron Hands are now. In fact, he was the opposite. In the books that focus on Ferrus Manus, he decries and discredits those amongst his sons that are all about the promotion of technology and metal over flesh. That's not his philosophy at all. He seeks a balance, and he is sort of like the spiritual guide of his sons, which is gone when he dies, which results in their more overt extremism in the modern setting of 40k. So that's very significant. And also the death of Ferrus Manus is what ultimately turns Fulgrim to chaos. I mean, he can't do it. As Fulgrim, he can't do it. He has to rely on the demon that's possessing him to kill Ferrus Manus, which in turn leads to Fulgrim's imprisonment in his own body, or rather in a painting that's created for him. You have to read the books to understand what's going on. It's a reference to the picture of Dorian Gray. But whilst Fulgrim is imprisoned, he learns. He learns from the demon. He learns from what he's seeing around him. He learns from the greater warp. He actually becomes a willing servant of Slaanesh, and eventually ends up becoming greater than the demon and repossessing his body and becoming the wonderful four-armed, snake-tailed, bewinged demon prince that we all know and love. That's probably going to be the last one they make, and by all accounts he is coming, which is wonderful, but that will probably be the last one they make, so we'll have to wait and see how that pans out. But also Sanguinius, please don't bring back Sanguinius. Please, 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 please. Sanguinius's martyrdom is very significant for the 40k setting and the Blood Angels in general. Don't bring back Sanguinius. He's dead and he should stay dead. Same is true of Horus. Don't want to see Horus. Definitely don't want to see Horus back. I mean, he is obliterated at the end of the Horus Heresy. It's not just his body that's destroyed, it's his soul. The Emperor rips his soul apart, essentially. There's nothing left of him. Nothing left of him. Night Haunter. Don't want to see him back. I love Night Haunter. He's a fantastic character in the Horus Heresy books. He's a fantastic character anyway. He's very tormented and very animalistic, and he's so strong. So strong. In Unremembered Empire, he takes on Guilliman, Sanguinius, and Lionel Johnson all at once, and pretty much wins. He's a monster, Night Haunter. You don't want to fight Night Haunter. And also, he single-handedly brings the Dark Angels Legion and Guilliman's Empire on Macragge to its knees. He sets it burning in almost a single night on his own. He's an amazing character, Night Haunter, but I don't want to see him back. His martyrdom is what echoes down the history of the Night Lords. It's what makes them what they are. And if he returns, then it will end that. It will change them fundamentally, and I don't really want that, to be perfectly honest. I like the Night Lords as they are. But yes, Magnus the Red, we've seen him. There's leaks of the miniature, and it's brilliant. I mean, it's a stunning miniature. It looks just like, for all the world, it looks just like the John Blanche artwork of Magnus the Red. Mitt, wings, and demonic properties, of course. Wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. The only bugbear I can see now is how they portray him and how they portray the Primarchs in general. That's going to be problematic. That is going to be problematic because, first of all, you've got the demon Primarchs who are different fundamentally from the mortal Primarchs. Should they be more powerful? Technically, yes. Should they be? For my mind, instead of making them more powerful, they should just make them different in terms of the way they operate. Both sets, the demonic and the mortal Primarchs, should have different capabilities. For my money, the demon Primarchs should be individually more capable and more powerful. They have the power of the warp running through them. Magnus the Red is a fucking psychic holocaust, and that's what he should be. But they should perhaps have less in the way of buffing powers for their armies. The mortal Primarchs should be able to interact more with their forces, perhaps, or something to that effect. That's the way it should work. One-on-one, the mortal Primarchs should not be able to take on the demon Primarchs. Shouldn't be able to do it. But in terms of their wider significance for their respective forces, perhaps the mortal Primarchs should have more buffing powers. Something like that. That would be a good way of differentiating them, I think. But yes, it's very interesting because the return of the Primarchs has not only significance for Chaos, which thank Baphomet, thank Slanesh, thank any fucking demon god you can name. It means that there is work being done on the dynamic of Chaos. Chaos is changing. From what we understand from the current leaks, it seems that the Thousand Sons, if you look at the box that was revealed of Magnus the Red, the front of the box, the Thousand Sons aspect is in the faction part of the box. It's listed Thousand Sons as a faction. Now that's significant because that means that Thousand Sons may be a faction in and of themselves rather than just being part of Chaos Space Marines, which is good. That's good. From what we understand, the rumour mongers, Sad Panda, Lady Atia, and the rest, they've been saying that what's happening is Chaos is being broken up, which is good. It's been needed that for a long time, so that focus can be paid to the individual portions of Chaos. So you're going to have the cults, the Tzeentch cults, the Nurgle cults, the Slanesh cults, and the Khorne cults. Hopefully, you're also going to have maybe undivided together, the unaligned legions, I suppose, or maybe they'll each get their own supplements or codices. Maybe that's the way it's going to work now, and I sincerely hope that's the case. That seems to be what's happening with the Thousand Sons. From what they've been saying, we're definitely getting either a supplement or a codex in and of itself, which is, according to, I think it was Sad Panda who said that it's going to be like the Harlequin Codex, which is, it's going to have like a limited number of units, then a number of generic units from Demons and Chaos Space Marines, which is great. That's how it should work. That's how it should be. And I sincerely hope that rather than just being reprints of the rules they already have, which is not going to be good, by the way, if that's the case, then forget it. They're just going to rework Thousand Sons, the Mark of Tzeentch, the psychic powers, just rework them entirely because they need it. They need to be redesigned from the grounds up, really, in terms of their rules and their battlefield roles. They need to be redesigned. And there are easy ways of doing it. I mean, one of the things they could do is go back to the Thousand Sons' original portrayal in the realm of Chaos. Now, in the realm of Chaos, they were not the rubric Marines. They were not the dusty sort of automatons. That had not happened yet. They were wildly mutated, hideous monsters of things. They were unrecognizable as Marines, but they had this particular rule whereby even the Battle Brothers had nascent psychic abilities, so they could empower the more progressed or powerful sorcerers with their nascent psychic capabilities. That is the way they could do it. The Mark of Tzeentch could provide maybe one extra warp charge for every unit that's comprised entirely of models with the Mark of Tzeentch than it normally would. That would give the army a degree of synergy. It would mean that all focus would be on the sorceress characters, which it should be. Thousand Sons and Tzeentch forces should be all about the characters more than anything else, really. And it would mean that there's a point in taking them. It would mean they would have a wider role. They would be there to empower the sorcerers and protect them while they did their magic and occult witchery. That's the way it should really work. That's an excellent synergy for the Thousand Sons and for Tzeentch forces in general, by the way, and it should have been done a long time ago, to be honest. Beyond that, they need to rework the psychic powers because the Tzeentch psychic powers suck. They're the worst in the Chaos Codex. the god of magic, has the worst psychic discipline, and the Chaos powers in the Chaos Codex are not very good in general. So you've got a really bad situation there. So they need reworking entirely. For my money, they could just supplant them with the demon lore that you find that they've reworked in the recent Codex Demons update, because that's a really good lore. And if you had like aspiring sorcerers able to throw around those powers, suddenly Thousand Sons units become really significant. They become a real threat, because you've got potentially multiple strength D shots, potentially multiple summoning units. It's a good way of doing it, and it will, it would prevent, they wouldn't have to then rewrite an entirely new lore which is in conflict with the demon lore. So we'll see how it goes, we'll see how that goes. But yes, this has profound significance for the way chaos forces manifest, and it's not before time. I mean, to be honest, it's not chaos. Particular chaos space marines have needed reworking for years, almost a decade, to be honest. And even before then, they've always had this problem of being loyalists, like loyalist space marines, but either with more than them or less than them. And for the last decade, it's certainly been less than. And that's not the way they should operate. They should be a different force. They should be dynamically different. They should be, in terms of the way they play and their character, different. For my money, ideally, and of course everyone has different interpretations of how they should play, but for my money, they should be, it's by unit, perhaps more powerful. They have the power of the warp running through them. A lot of them are very ancient. They've been fighting for, even the ones that haven't been fighting since the Horus Heresy, have been fighting for centuries in the Eye of Terror, and their entire lives. They don't have any downtime like the Loyalist Space Marines. They fight and they worship, and they even against one another. The entire Chaos Space Marine culture, I suppose, is one of constant backbiting, betrayal, survival of the fittest. They fight one another as well as all the warp entities, the aliens, the demons, the loyalists, the inquisitors. They're fighting all the fucking time. They should be unit by unit, perhaps more powerful, but smaller. Maybe prohibitive points cost or something like that. They should be far more capable on a unit-by-unit basis, but perhaps more diminutive in terms of army and unit size. That would work very well. Also, they should certainly lack some of the more specialist weapons that loyalists have. They should lack them, but they should have alternatives. For another problem with Chaos Space Marines is that they essentially just wield the same weapons as loyalists. They still have plasma guns, and they still have melter guns and bolters that work exactly the fucking same for the most part as the loyalist ones, and that shouldn't be the case. Over the 10 millennia that they've been in the Eye of Terror, they should have manufactured new weapons by this point. And not only that, but the culture of their weapons should be different. They've been warped and twisted and transformed by the Eye, so by the power of the warp. So the nature of the ammunition, their bolters fire should be different. Their flamers should be like semi-organic and gout warp flame, or in the case of Nurgle flamers, they should gout like hideous toxins and things. They should be, for my money, they need to be entirely newly equipped. We need to go back to the foundations and look at how Chaos Space Marines manifest in the 40k setting. Their armor, their weaponry, their stats even should be changed. Their special rules should certainly be changed. They need to be redesigned from the ground up to give them a definitive character, other than making them just worse versions than loyalists, which is what they are. There's no arguing with it. They are just worse versions than loyalists. Unit for unit, army for army, for the most part, loyalist armies from the current range of Space Marine codices are cheaper, but points-wise they have more synergy, they're better equipped. There's no contest in terms of competitive play, and in terms of character as well. One of the big problems with the way Chaos Space Marines manifest now is they're dissolute. The Loyalist Space Marines have all of these wonderful synergies with one another. The units work together, particularly within the formations they have. Ours don't. The Chaos Space Marines just don't. They're all sort of bits on the battlefield, and they operate kind of independently of one another. And much to their dilution, I must say, there are certain units that just don't work. Mutilators are worthless. They are absolutely worthless. Warp Talons, they're not useless, but they're too expensive and they're too vulnerable. Obliterators are fine, but really vulnerable and have a lot of problems, especially in comparison to the Space Marine Centurions, which are essentially the Loyalist Obliterators, but better. The Chaos Space Marine units. The Chaos Space Marine units are for nothing. You may as well just take Cultists. Cultists are cheaper. You take more of them. They have they just have a better presence on the battlefield than Chaos Space Marines do, which is mental. That should not happen. Chaos Space Marine armies should be about Chaos Space Marines, and the Chaos Space Marines should be the focus. They're not. The only time people take Chaos Space Marines these days is because of this. It's because of supplements like Traitor's Hate, which have formations which force you to take Chaos Space Marines. They're sort of tax units, and that's the big problem. I like this book. I appreciate what it's trying to do. It's a kind of Band-Aid. It's a Band-Aid for when... To make Chaos Space Marines barely functional. It gives them just enough buffs and options to make them barely functional in the current setting. It doesn't do enough by any stretch of the imagination, because it is ultimately... The formations in here are good. The formations are quite fun, as are the psychic powers, which are just rehashes and rewritings of the psychic powers from the Space Marine supplement, the Angels of Death supplement, which is fine. That makes Chaos Sorcerers really potent. I mean, that's wonderful. Massively appreciated. But the problems with the book are not the problems with the book. They're the problems with the parent Chaos Space Marine Codex, which it refers to. The formations are good, but they're hamstrung by the parent codex. The main formation is the Chaos Warband, essentially, and everybody will want a Chaos Warband. The problem with it is if you take the Chaos Warband, even at its cheapest, it outprices you for almost all of the auxiliaries. If you in a normal sort of 1,000 to 500, 1,000 to 800 point game, it's generally what people play. You can only take the barest minimum of those units. You can't upgrade them, you can't add more numbers. You can only, at most, you'll be able to take one of the auxiliaries, and that's it. You'll always be outclassed, you'll always be outnumbered, and that's a huge problem. And it's because of the points cost of the parent codex. You try to make an army list from the parent codex, and it fights you. It's actually no fun at all. No fun at all, especially if you're a Thousand Suns player or a Slaanesh player like myself. The Codex fights you. You go to Loyalist Codex and you can make all manner of armies, loads of different armies that function, that work, but which are distinct and different and interesting. The Eldar do exactly the same, although the Eldar Codex does need rewriting for the opposite reasons. It's way too powerful. It's way too powerful. Even the Tyrannid Codex, which is not very good, by the way, is better than the Chaos Space Marine Codex. It allows for a wider variety of functional armies. And that's the big problem. But there is hope. There is hope on the horizon. I mean, the story in this really is the beginning. It's the beginning of the reworking of Chaos Space Marines. That much is obvious. It's also the beginning of the new status of 40k. It's building up to, as the little subtitle there suggests, it's building up to the next Black Crusade, which by all accounts is going to be a reworking of the 13th Black Crusade, which some of the older players out there will remember as being the summer campaign in... it was when the 3.5 Codex was released, and we had the 13th Black Crusade, which Chaos fucking won, by the way, but it was retconned by Games Workshop. Bastards. It was the summer campaign, which was the invasion of Cadia and the spilling of chaos out into the galaxy, but which was then retconned very quickly to make it as though, oh well, yes, the chaos did win, but it didn't really. And this one, by all accounts, is going to change the status of the 40k universe. It's going to be the lead up to 8th edition, which is going to be very interesting. I mean, obviously, this is going to be a much bigger change, because the Primarchs are back, and that's never happened before. I don't think there's ever been that degree of transition in the 40k universe, certainly not one that's held. I mean, there's been lots of stuff in the past that's just been retconned, like Eldred Ultron has died. Eldred Ultron died in the 13th Black Crusade, but is back now. Yeah, they sort of swept that one under the rug a little bit. Yeah, he's wandering around now, and in fact he has a new miniature, which is gorgeous, by the way. The Primarchs coming back is going to change the entire status of the 40k universe. For one thing, the Loyalists, I think what this is going to lead to, and I sincerely hope this is the case, is the fracturing of the Imperium. The reason I believe this is the case is because the Loyalist Primarchs are from an era when the Emperor was alive, and they know what he intended for the Imperium, which is almost the opposite of what it's become. So you're going to have Loyalists like, say, maybe Rogel Dawn, like Gilman. Certainly, if Gilman comes back, he's going to fucking hate the Imperium. Fucking hate it for what it's become. This vast theocracy. That's not what the Emperor intended at all. He intended the opposite. The exact opposite. So you may in fact have other empires, other more strictly loyalist empires fighting against the Imperium. That'd be great. That'd be fantastic. I would love to see that. You have a different flavour of traitor. The loyalist traitor. The less sort of negatively portrayed traitor. So we'll see how it goes. We'll see what they do with it. I sincerely hope they do that with it. And we even have the possibility. I don't think it's going to happen before the big four, the cult legions Primarchs are done. But we have the possibility of maybe Perturabo, the Primarch of the Iron Warriors. That's going to be fucking interesting. Lorgar, the Primarch of the Word Bearers. Good God, he hasn't been seen since the latter days of the heresy. He, after his ascension to demonhood on the demon world of Sicarus, he retreated to his reclusium and has been up there coordinating efforts, reading the rhythms of the warp for millennia. No one knows what he's up to. The only person who's seen him, even his own legion haven't seen him, the likes of Corphaeron and Erebus, they haven't seen him, they don't know what he's up to. Abaddon. He granted an audience to Abaddon only. That's interesting. What did he tell him? What did they do? What did they reveal to one another? And why Abaddon? Why did he reveal himself to Abaddon and not to anyone else? And what's he going to be like? I mean, Lorgar is the arch son of Chaos. He created the heresy, essentially. He is the one who fermented the entire situation. Him and his legion corrupted what eventually became the traitor legions. He manipulated the creation of the traitor Primarchs. So God knows what he's going to be like. He should be insane, absolutely insane, when he emerges. We shall see. We shall see. But yeah, very exciting times at the moment. Very exciting times. I'm looking forward to what comes of this. I really, really am. Apprehensive. Absolutely. I mean, if you're a Chaos player, you have no choice but to be apprehensive about this, because Games Workshop's track record with Chaos hasn't been very good for the last decade or so. But things are looking decidedly